In 1963, a con man nearly took down the American financial system using nothing but salad oil. He deceived some of the biggest banks on Wall Street. He nearly bankrupted American Express. And he did it all with a few leaky tanks and some very creative accounting. This is the story of the great salad oil swindle, and the man behind it, Anthony Tino DeAngelis. Welcome to Obscure Financial History. We dive into the forgotten frauds and financial disasters that shaped the system we live with today. Tino DeAngelis was born in the Bronx in 1915. By the age of 20, he was already selling butter and eggs in New York City. People called him a hustler. He called himself a businessman. During World War II, he got his first big break. He ran a federal government food program supplying meat to schools and institutions. But after repeated complaints of overpricing and suspicious contracts, he was barred from doing business with the government. Instead of quitting, Tino pivoted. In 1955, he started a new company, Allied Crude Vegetable Oil Refining Corporation. It was based in Bayonne, New Jersey, across the river from Manhattan. The business claimed to refine and store massive quantities of soybean oil. Soybean oil was a hot commodity. It was used in salad dressing, cooking oils, margarine, and even industrial products like soap and paint. There was real demand. But Tino had bigger ambitions than just selling oil. He wanted to corner the market. The strategy was simple. Buy as much soybean oil as possible, drive up the price, and sell it later for a profit. But there was a problem: he didn't have the capital. So he borrowed it. And he used the oil in his tanks as collateral. Here's how it worked. When a commodities trader stores goods in a warehouse, the warehouse issues a receipt confirming the inventory. That receipt can then be used as collateral to borrow money from a bank. It's called warehouse financing, and it was a common practice. The receipts were supposed to guarantee that the physical commodity was there. Banks trusted these documents. And in this case, American Express vouched for the receipts. They were in the warehousing business too. So when Tino claimed to have millions of gallons of oil in his Bayonne tanks, Amex verified it, and everyone believed it. But here's the trick. The tanks weren't full of oil. They were full of water, with a thin layer of soybean oil floating on top. Inspectors would open the tanks and dip a measuring rod in. The rod would come out slick with oil. It looked real. But no one checked what was below the surface. Tino even rigged some tanks with false bottoms to hide the water. He bribed inspectors and falsified paperwork. And when questions came up, he shuffled the same oil between different tanks to give the illusion of movement. He also forged bills of lading to claim shipments that never existed. It was a shell game on an industrial scale. By 1963, he claimed to have over 1.8 billion pounds of soybean oil in storage. In reality, he had maybe a tenth of that. But the fake inventory supported real loans. Big loans. At one point, Tino had borrowed over $150 million using these bogus warehouse receipts. That's equivalent to over $1.5 billion today. Some of the biggest names in banking were exposed. Bank of America, Chase, Bank Leumi, Bunge, and of course, American Express. They had issued many of the warehouse receipts and vouched for the oil that didn't exist. Investors saw Amex as a trusted financial institution. But now, it looked like they'd been running with con men. In November 1963, the whole scheme came crashing down. A commodities firm called Williston & Bean tried to seize Tino's oil as collateral. When their inspectors arrived, they found tanks full of water. The news spread fast. Banks panicked. American Express stock collapsed, falling over 50% in just a few weeks. The company lost $58 million, half its net worth. Other firms lost even more. One brokerage firm, Ira Haupt & Company, was so exposed that the New York Stock Exchange had to step in to keep them from going bankrupt. It was a full-blown financial crisis. all triggered by a guy with some oil tanks and a good story. Tino De Angelis was arrested on November 27, 1963. He was charged with fraud, conspiracy, and multiple counts of financial deception. He spent 7 years in prison. But the effects of his scam rippled through Wall Street for years. American Express was humiliated. It took them a decade to rebuild their reputation. They eventually reinvented themselves as a credit card company, and left the warehousing business behind. And guess who helped them get back on their feet? Warren Buffett. In the 1960s, Buffett bought a large stake in American Express, betting that the brand could survive the scandal. It was one of his first legendary investments. But the salad oil swindle wasn't just a bizarre footnote. It changed how banks evaluated collateral. It led to tighter inspection standards, more scrutiny of warehouse practices, and major losses for some of the biggest names in finance. It also proved that even the smartest investors can be fooled when they stop asking hard questions. Tino De Angelis wasn't a genius. He didn't use computers or algorithms or exotic financial instruments. He just knew how to lie convincingly, and how to hide it with just enough truth. And in the end, all it took to expose him was one person actually checking what was in the tank. The Great Salad Oil Swindle is a lesson in due diligence. A reminder that when things seem too good to be true, they probably are. Thanks for watching Obscure Financial History. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe. Drop a comment and let us know what obscure scam or financial disaster you want to see next. And remember, don't just skim the surface.